The following program may contain themes and language of an adult nature. Parental discretion is advised. The views and opinions expressed on Rally Point Radio are those of the on-air personalities and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Los Angeles Film School or its subsidiaries.
Rally Point Radio is a production of the Los Angeles Film School's chapter of Student Veterans of America. Broadcasting from the heart of Hollywood, California at the Los Angeles Film School, this is Rally Point Radio. Rally Point Radio is broadcast from the heart of Hollywood at the Los Angeles Film School. We take point on current industry topics, trends, and campus life. Our unique location and support from the entertainment community has given us an opportunity to interview many industry leaders, as well as the top up-and-coming students and alumni of the Los Angeles Film School.
All right, and welcome to episode number 3 of Rally Point Radio. On this episode, our guest will be current entertainment business student Cecilia Johnson Ramsey, entertainment business instructor for artists and event management on Arena, and in our featured guest segment, Kyle Newacheck, alumni of the film program and co-creator of Comedy Central's Workaholics. So let's kick off this episode with our student spotlight and Cecilia Johnson Ramsey. Cecilia is one of our most decorated students here at the Los Angeles Film School, an alumni of the film program, having graduated salutatorian, and an alumni of the Los Angeles Recording School, graduating valedictorian, and is set to graduate next month from the Entertainment Business Bachelor's Degree program. For this interview, I am going to go back into the Kevin Smith archives from last year, where Cecilia was also a guest on Kevin Smith's Film School Friday. So let's get this started with our Student Spotlight segment with Cecilia Johnson Ramsey and Kevin Smith.
Student Spotlight.
Welcome to Film School Fridays. I'm Kevin Smith. Okay, man, we're back, as we always are, for this entire session of Film School Friday at the Los Angeles Film School, talking to real live Los Angeles Film School students, ladies and gentlemen. Now, these aren't knuckleheaded kids that you would see coming out of high school and whatnot. We're talking to adults. These are people who are making a choice, usually later in life, to head towards art, man. It's always a bold choice when you're out of your 20s. When you're in your 20s, you're young and dopey and you think you can do anything, so naturally you're like, let's do it. It's always great when you meet people who are like, I'm in my 30s and I'm doing this now. That means they're not waiting. It means they're not sitting there going, oh, it passed me by. They're seizing the opportunity, because I've been saying this for nearly 20 years, kids. Anybody can do this movie making stuff. Now, I don't say anybody can do it good. I can't do it good. But anybody can do it, man. And that's the important thing, is doing it. Because whether or not it's universally embraced as good, there's always going to be someone out there that it hits right in the sweet spot and whatnot. You're not going for the popular vote. You're going for the longevity vote here when you're making your art. You want to say something or create something that lives in someone's heart the way that weird movies or art has lived in your heart. And sometimes it's a big old mainstream movie, and sometimes it's a tiny thing that only 3 people on the planet have seen. There's no right way or wrong way. There's no good art or bad art. There is just art. And when anybody takes a step towards art, art takes 2 steps towards them. So we've been sitting down with a lot of cats at Los Angeles Film School from all different walks of life. A lot of military. That has been the really cool, surprising thing and whatnot. And that's not something you generally associate with film. It's not like, oh, people in the military want to make movies. It's a different world now. Everyone's creative, man. Gloves are off, and there's no more lines, no more gatekeepers, man. So it's nice to see a bunch of people with more life experience than the average kid coming out of high school going into a film school, sitting down going, I want to tell stories for a living. And it all begins with a single step toward art, and they're doing it right here at the Los Angeles Film School. And let's meet these cats, find out what makes them tick, and the stories they want to tell. We're going to start right here, and this is a rare treat. I've just done, 1, 2, 3, this is the 3rd episode. It's always a sausage party in this room, so I'm always delighted when we get some women in film, man, because it's 51% of the population. I think they have something to say as well. Welcome to Film School Friday. What's your name?
My name is Cecilia Johnson Ramsey.
Look at you. 3 names.
Yeah.
Very important.
Actually, ex-Navy.
Are you?
Yeah.
What part? SEAL?
No.
Are you one of those motherfuckers that killed that guy?
No, I was an ET, an electronics technician. So basically, I worked on anything that had a battery or anything that took a measurement.
Get out of here. And they trained you for that sort of thing?
Oh, yeah.
And did they send you around the world for it, or one place?
Oh, I've been everywhere. I've been Belgium, Turkey, Afghanistan, Iraq, stationed with the Marines, stationed with the Air Force on a nuclear aircraft carrier if it's been in United States territory or United States protection at one point, I've probably been there.
Nice, man. Heavens, why are you choosing something like film then?
Well, because when I got out, I found that there wasn't a whole lot of civilian calling for what I'd been trained to do.
Right. You're like, you guys got a nuclear submarine I can work on? They're like, no.
So I've always been interested in storytelling, and like my summer between 5th and 6th grade, I read every Nancy Drew novel ever
The Clue in the Clock.
print. Yeah. And then I was infatuated with Edgar Allan Poe and things like that.
We got a mystery writer on our hands.
Oh, yeah. So while I was looking for work after the military, I wrote my first 2 novels.
Nice.
And then I decided that people don't have the time nowadays to sit down and read a book cover to cover, but everybody likes to be entertained, and everybody likes that kind of hour-and-a-half escape from their own reality.
Heavens, yes.
So I decided that the best way to combine my chain of command and authority structure and work ethic with my love of storytelling was to go into the visual arts and go into specifically film. And the LA Film School was paid for by the GI Bill. So I've actually graduated the film school, graduated the recording program, focusing on audio post-production, and now I'm a third of the way into their entertainment business program.
Oh, I met someone else who was in the business program in the last. I didn't even know they had one. I was like, wow, that's interesting. You're in it as well.
Yeah,
that's really cool, man. And it's and you as well. And so you broke it down logically, where you were just like, I know this, I know this, I know this. If I combine it with this, I can be this.
Right.
That's beautiful. And again, like, how old are you?
36.
See, it's a great time to do it, man. I applaud anybody that does it at this age, because normally kids do it, and they're kids. They don't have anything to lose. They're fucking young. They're trying to figure out what they want to do in life. And anyway, and I was one of them. I wasn't a kid. I was 21, 22 when I did it, but I was living at home, the safety of my parents. So it was an easy decision to make. Like, a lot of people go like, I was brave. No, it wasn't. I was living at my parents, and I put the movie on credit cards. Like, I'd have to pay them back, but that's not brave. What's brave is getting into your 30s and being like, it's not too late, and going back and fucking seasoning. Because that was not the thinking 10, 20 years ago. A lot of people who probably could have made beautiful movies let their ship sail, going like, no, I missed my opportunity. And as long as you're fucking pushing air into your lungs, you have not missed your opportunity. So it's good that you're doing it at this stage of the game. Plus, you got way more experience. Think of all the fucking life you've lived and the stories you've seen and the things you've heard and blah, blah, blah. Way more than some kid who's like fresh out of high school going, I want to make a movie. So I think really they should make filmmakers wait until they're in their 30s, live some fucking life before they give them a camera. That's my philosophy. Of course, I say that after having done it in my 20s and shit. And I'm like, close that fucking door. Okay, man. So it sounds like you're digging it here in a big bad way. You've re-upped a couple times. More so than you were upped in the military, or no? How many times you re-upped in the military versus the Los Angeles Film School? And here you've done 3 times.
Yeah.
Look at that, man. Okay, floor is yours. Ask any question you want. Let me see if I can point you in a direction or illuminate some shaded issue for you.
What advice do you have for up-and-coming filmmakers who realize that logistically they're going to have to work on projects that they're not emotionally attached to in order to make the money to make the projects that they really want to make?
Beautiful question. And naturally, it had to come from a woman. No dude ever asks a logical and emotional and true question like that. Yes, there is the dirty little secret of this business, or any business, is sometimes you have to do some jobs maybe you wouldn't choose to do. We all talk loftily about self-expression, making our art, and sometimes in order to do that, in order to get through that door, you got to travel through a little hallway of dingy work for somebody else that you are not attached to. Jason Mewes, a good friend of mine, who's been Jay to my Silent Bob. I put him in all my movies, but I don't make a ton of movies. He still wants to act, so he goes off and works on other people's flicks, and it's a completely different experience and whatnot. And sometimes he's just like, there's a few that I did because I have to pay my rent and stuff. And how does the artist justify that to themselves? And that's what it comes down to. It's how you can sleep with it at night. Don't worry about the rest of the world. The rest of the world's always going to have a fucking opinion on what you do. And 9 times out of 10 is going to be bad just because that's more entertaining than being good, until you get to a certain point and breathing rarefied air or something like that. So assuming that you're never going to be able to charm the entire audience, man, you remove that from the equation. And so you start thinking about the hardcore practical realities. If you're choosing art for your living, you got to make a living. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you got to pay rent. Sometimes you got to take a job. Me, I got lucky early on and even later in life, in as much as the stuff I wanted to do, I tricked somebody into paying me to do, as opposed to me having to do something for them or work on their stuff. But I've definitely worked on other people's flicks or other people's projects and stuff where I'm not as tied into it emotionally as I would be my own. But that wasn't a case of like, I hate this job. How am I going to live through this fucking shit? That's something that a crew member faces on almost every movie. Like, these cats working, crewing up on movies, they don't read the script and be like, I like this. Sometimes they do. That's a bonus. If they're like, oh, I actually like this script. 9 times out of 10, people on your crew, man, they're not very familiar with the script. They're learning it as you're shooting it and stuff like that. Because they're like, dude, I don't care what it's about. I lug cable, so I got to get paid to lug cable. Let me do that. If you're doing that, if you can always remember that this is in service to something else, and that you're, aside from being paid, and you need to get paid in order to fucking pay your bills and keep a roof over your head and feed yourself and clothe yourself. Aside from that, it's all aggregated practice, free practice, in fact, paid for practice on somebody else's dime, somebody else's time. So anytime you're sitting there like, I fucking hate this, unless it's something where like, we're making a movie that celebrates pedophiles, obviously get off that set. But if you're on a movie where you're like, oh, it's a fucking shoot 'em up, or it's a fucking one of these zombie things, or something that you're like not necessarily inspired by, just remember that it's free film school, or film school that you're getting paid for. Because as much of an education as you get here in the room, you guys as ex-military know this completely, is basic training, and then there's fucking being in the field, and they're two completely different things. They give you as much information as they can to get you ready for the field, but once you get in the field, you're like, this is nothing like they said. You know, where's the fucking ships and shit? So at the end of the day, if you're gonna be stuck on a set, don't ever think like, I'm stuck on the set. Just remember that this is a better job than 99% of the jobs out there. In terms of, if you're gonna be stuck at some job, rather be on somebody's fucking movie set. But most importantly, take from it what you can. Even in a situation like that, what you're taking from it is, well, I'm not gonna do this on mine. And whether it's in the story department, whether it's in the casting, the crewing up, how people talk to other people, it's always you pulling information, getting ready for your time to shine. Because when a fucking Eye of Sauron falls on you, you want to make sure that you can pull out all your magic all at once and stuff, because one does not simply walk into Mordor. Second time I busted Lord of the Rings. There's a reference. So that would be my best advice. There are going to be moments where you're like, this blows. I got involved in a movie situation where I didn't write it, but I was a director on it. Cop Out. I've talked about it a few times. Day 2 into that movie, suddenly I was like, the guy who I had to make the movie with wasn't the guy I thought he was, and I realized I'm gonna have to live with this guy for 2 months of my fucking life. And there was a moment where I was like, just walk away. Like, life's too short. And it's not like he's fucking Hitler, but it's just he worked so completely different than I do. 180 degrees. There was 2 completely different ethos at work, and his was always gonna win because he's a fucking movie star. So I sat there going, do I do this? Because this is against everything I stand for, man. Like, I run sets like, we're all happy to be here, man. A lot of people who come to work for me are doing so at a loss. They're not making as much money as they can make someplace else, because I'm like, can you do it for less? Can you do it for cheap? But they come do it knowing that they're going to have a good time. Nobody's going to get yelled at. I'm not an asshole. I'm pretty easy to work with. They'll probably have a fun time in terms of getting paid. And suddenly I was looking at like, fuck, man, I'm stuck in a place where it's never going to be that. This guy is going to be an element that I can't fucking tame or break or deal with. He is what he is, and he's a force of fucking nature. Do I want to do that? And then finally I was like, you know what? I'm going to learn a lot. If I walk away from the situation, I'm never going to know what it's like to take it all the way with somebody who doesn't want to be there. Like, that's the thing that broke me. Everyone I always wanted to work with or worked with, everyone wanted to be there, to the point of taking pay cuts. And this guy was a paycheck player. He was there because he was getting paid. And that was the first one that had kind of snuck in on my watch. Nothing wrong with getting paid. I'm certainly not saying like anyone who wants a paycheck is a fucking communist slug. No, not at all. But this dude, it wasn't about the art. It wasn't about the self-expression. It wasn't about like, let's put on a show. It was just, I'm getting paid, so the clock's run and go. And I'd never dealt with that before. I didn't know how to deal with that in an artistic situation. As only because I breathed rarefied air for so long, because I got to work at Miramax and stuff, and they were like, art first, business later, and that switched later on. So I figured like, I'd never learn this if I don't do this, so I'll stay and fucking do it. And there were moments that absolutely sucked. The nice thing was, for as weird as he got, the rest of the crew got better to make up for him. So there was kind of like fucking when you get a blister, all the water that surrounds the fucking wound, whole crew was like that water, creating an environment to work in, because they knew they saw me struggling uphill with this guy who just did not want to be there and shit. So it's good character building stuff, but it also teaches you a skill set that you can then take into the next production and know that you'll never deal with a situation like that, because you can see it coming from a mile away. And even if you have to deal with it, you can deal with it. You've got the technology. You've been on a production that you didn't quite want to be on before. But again, for me, it's like, as long as you're on a movie rather than working at a convenience store or fucking in the field with a gun in your hands or working on the tech in Belgium or something like that, as long as you're on a movie set, it's kind of like, wow, this beats anything else, almost anything else. And so bad days, you'll have bad days on any fucking job. You sit there and go like, this will pass. And also, movies are finite. It's not like you go to work at a real job. You don't know when it's going to end. You could be stuck in this hellish job for 20 years hating this one aspect of it, but you're trapped into it because of the money. Films, they got like a expiration date. You're getting out at a certain point. So even if you hate every one of these motherfuckers, you're like, in 2 months, I never have to see him again.
It's like the military.
Very much. Yeah, pretty much. They're very similar.
But that usually goes in like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And then you eventually go like, do I want to re-up? Yeah. On the bad productions, you never want to re-up. But stick it out, man. There are going to be moments in this job where you're doing something you don't want to do. Even if you're in charge, even if it's your script and you're directing, when somebody else is giving you money, you're beholden to them. So if they come in and say, you can't do this for whatever reason, we can't afford it, or I disagree with this in general, and since I'm paying, you have to listen to me, you're always going to have to deal with that. There's always going to be bad days. Even on the best job in the world, there's always fucking shit days. There's always assholes, people to deal with where you're like, fuck, why does this person have to be involved? Everything would be perfect if it wasn't for this person. So that's no surprises. You'll face that. But I would say keep working because it's worth the practice at the very, very least. Never work in a situation that's dehumanizing or somebody fucking talking down to you. You don't need to take that shit. And you know the difference between somebody giving an order and somebody fucking talking down to you. There's a world of difference. But if you can hang, stick with the situation, man. Makes you tougher, makes you stronger, makes you smarter. More importantly, it gives you a skill set of tools where you're like, when I do it, when it's my time, it ain't ever going to be that. The shitty production will make your production better by virtue of the fact that you're like, I'm not doing this, I'm never doing this, I'm never doing this. Somebody's shown you the wrong way for you, so you get to then show yourself the right way. So there's good to come from it. Plus, there's a check. And getting paid for being on a movie set is better than getting paid for fucking lugging brick or building, I was going to say sarcophaguses. I don't know if anybody really builds sarcophaguses anymore. Memorial tombs or some such shit. All right, we're going to wrap up today, but before we do that, let's go around the table, man. Everyone say your names and say your concentration. And if there's a place you want people to reach out to you, like your Twitter, your Facebook, some people like to plug and stuff. Mike's yours. Say whatever you want. Go ahead.
Sandra Metrocitos, first AC, producer, actor. Reach me on Facebook.
Right on.
Cecilia Johnson Ramsey. I'm on Facebook. And also you can Google Cadence Pictures LLC.
Nice.
Reginald Pippin, writer, director, sound mixer, boom operator.
Boom operator.
Yeah.
Boom operator. It's good to know that film school joke
I'm on
never goes away.
Facebook. You can check me out on Facebook and Twitter.
Nice.
Robert Earl Ray. You can reach me at Live for Actions at Outlook. You can IMDb me at Robert Earl Ray. Thank you.
And he likes acting. So if
yes.
you're in Los Angeles area.
And my demo reel's on my IMDb page, so you can check me out.
There it is.
Nice.
And Cole Calloway.
Other than that name, man. Heidi.
So I've been told it sounds like a Western action star.
It does. It sounds it's alliterative like a comic book name as well.
So,
Cole Calloway.
Yeah.
Puts on a mask and fights crime.
Exactly. Well, I do have a face for radio, so I've been told. So
I have a face for radio and a body. Follow all these cats, ladies and gentlemen, because you're hearing from some filmmakers. They're already filmmakers. They're just nascent in their stages in terms of somebody giving them money. But this generation doesn't wait for a gatekeeper to give them money. They can do shit by themselves. And these cats can clearly do a lot by themselves. They accomplish way more than something as dopey and fleeting as making a movie in their lives. So if they're up to that challenge, the challenges you guys have all faced, making films is going to be a breeze for you. And we look forward to watching everything you guys are going to be making. These are the people who are going to be making your entertainment, ladies and gentlemen, for the next 10, 20, 30, 50 fucking years, for as long as they can. You lived under the blanket of safety they provided. Now they're going to make you laugh, make you feel, make you cry, show you shit, man. These are productive members of society. That's Film School Fridays for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, as always, we're at the Los Angeles Film School. Look them up online. We haven't heard a bad word from anybody who's come through yet. Everyone really digs the program. If you're ex-military and you're sitting there going, what am I going to do with my life? Listen, this is where you go.
Come to the school.
Yeah, come to this school right here, man, out in California. You've earned it for yourself. Until then, man, this is Kevin Smith urging you all, go out and make some art, kids.
Instructor's Corner.
I'm Art Holmes from Rally Point Radio, and I'm currently joined by Ana Reina. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Ana Reina is a marketing and management consultant specializing in the entertainment business industry. As a consultant with over 15 years of experience, she is able to develop strategic marketing plans with outlined structured goals, brand development, and positioning. Ana's experience in the entertainment industry includes public relations for various clients, such as independent musical artists, labels, entrepreneurs, managers, corporations, and production companies. Ana has also had diverse roles as a music producer, which included touring, booking, event, and production management. She has been a host and a red carpet correspondent for Indie Film Insider, and her specialties include artist management consulting, strategic planning, innovative marketing, conference and panel speaking, course curriculum development, marketing research and analysis, branding, rebranding, positioning, development of marketing materials, event production and management, public relations, and project management. Anna currently teaches and mentors students at the Los Angeles Film School's Entertainment Business Bachelor's program, where she is the course director for artist and event management and has previously taught the marketing and strategic planning courses. As a professor at the Los Angeles Film School, Anna is an advocate of instilling discovery learning techniques in the classroom, creating real-world, hands-on experiences. With her have-fun lifestyle approach to teaching, she is passionate about developing young minds to become visionaries. She follows the philosophy, I don't teach, I inspire. How are you?
Wow, you make me sound really important.
That's what we do here in Hollywood.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So tell me a typical day in the life of Anna Reina.
Oh my God, this is a very complex question. I don't even know myself. Let's see. Basically, I love to teach. I love coming to work here at Los Angeles Film School. I come from Full Sail. I hail from Orlando.
Our sister school?
Our sister school, yes. And I started the entertainment business degree over there and with that program. And so you guys adopted it here and I came over here as well to help with the program. And I love it. I love being in the classroom with the students. So I just wake up every day. Of course, I still do things on the side. I still do things with different clients and I take care of that for my class where my day really begins. And I teach 2 classes a day and in between breaks, phone calls, emails, all that crazy stuff. And then eventually I end up home at night.
And where are you originally from?
Originally, I'm from Columbia, South America. I pretty much grew up in Charlotte, though. I would have to say
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Home of Ric Flair.
Oh my God, you actually remember that. That's like old school, yes. I went to Appalachian State where I studied marketing and management. And I'm a big fan of marketing. I love branding. And, you know, when I was back in the day, we didn't have multimedia schools like this. And we didn't have degrees for artist management. You know, it was learning on your own, process of making it work, finding mentors and all that kind of stuff. So to be part of this new movement of these new schools and helping to give back, I think it's great. I think it's wonderful.
So how do you go from Charlotte, North Carolina to Hollywood? What's the journey there?
It was very long and confusing and everything like that. But basically, I went from Charlotte, I went up to New York and thought I was going to take over the advertising world. You know, I was going to have a big office overlooking everything. I was this country girl who's...
What year was this?
Oh, God, do I have to tell you?
You can give us an approximation.
Like early 90s.
So this was like right before the internet wasn't a thing then.
Oh, yeah. No internet. Yeah, definitely. And no YouTube, no Facebook.
So what was the marketing world like at that time?
It was all very much advertisements, you know, commercials, TV. I mean, it was before you had to go home and actually watch the show during its hour or else you missed it kind of show. And you had different times of different days and that was pretty much it. There was no rewind or replay. And
no TiVo.
No TiVo. No recorded. So it was definitely a great world. And I just, you know, I didn't like New York. I didn't like it.
Didn't fit your personality?
No, I'm a tropical person. I found out the hard way. I'm more beaches and chill. And my friend invited me. She was from school and she invited me to come down and defrost down in Orlando. And I've never been to Orlando before. And I went down, I loved it. And I never came back. I never went back to New York. So, but while I was in Orlando, I started running into musicians and artists and different people like that. And they really needed some help how to market themselves, how to promote themselves. And so I loved the music. And I just started kind of hanging out with them and helping them out and showing them different things and different ways of how to do it. And they really liked my creative approaches. And we started working on bigger campaigns. And back then we didn't have Facebook likes or subscribers.
Social media didn't exist.
Yeah. So it was more of seeing people buy the actual album, showing up at shows and doing it that kind of way.
Very word of mouth advertising.
And it was really great. All my artists I was working with really liked what I did and asked me to start managing them and just kind of fell into it. And it was really funny because I started learning to get into these labels and stuff like that. First I'd be like, I'm so-and-so's friend or I'm so-and-so's. Then I was like, oh, I'm so-and-so's manager. And then it was hard to start getting through. So I started making up my own company to make myself look bigger than what I was. And it worked. And then I was like, oh crap, I need to make a company. one of those things. And I did, and just started managing artists. The marketing really plays hand in hand with the management. It's such a huge element when it comes to artist management. So having that kind of educational background just made everything easier. But yeah, I started managing artists and did really good with that. And then I was in Orlando for about 10 years, 12 years, and did the whole gamut, touring, getting artists signed, throwing on huge events, working on different marketing plans and campaigns, creating platforms for different artists. And I love independent artists. I think it's a great position to be in, even though a lot of artists feel like they need a label to get signed.
Yeah.
I'm an advocate of creating your own platform and making money for yourself, making your own decisions, and having your own creative control. Dealing with labels and all these big time people, they own so much of what you've created. And I've seen some artists get shelved. I've seen artists get their music taken away from them. I've seen bands ripped apart by labels. I've seen it all. And it just got so depressing. It got so bad. And then once the internet came, I was just like, you guys can do this. You don't need a label. You now have access. So I began to really love the development part of it and kind of just stopped dealing with labels and helped artists do it on their own. And I have 5 main artists I really work with. One is Phoebes and Her Moneymakers, who is doing really great on the festival ska circuit. And she did Vans Warped Tour this past summer. And she's a featured artist on Warped Roadies on Fuse TV. And she's getting licensing deals. And we're working with her on different types of sponsors and stuff like that. And she's doing great. She's doing everything she wants to do. And she's control of her brand and her music. And that's what it's really about. And through my artists and working with my artists and then coming out to California through Full Sail in the program, that's how I ended up out here. But I like it.
So how long have you been out in Hollywood?
Oh, God. 6 months, maybe?
Wow, not that long.
Not that long. Still trying to get my feet down on the ground. It's different. I wish the music scene was a little bit more of a community. It's not really...
Because do you find yourself being, hanging out on Sunset Boulevard and the whiskey and all that?
Yeah, I've been there, and we don't have a pay-to-play kind of mentality in Florida. Yeah, we don't. Here it's very pay-to-play. You show up for your band and leave, and there's no real, I don't know, I'm missing that sense of community. I don't really get that feel here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I haven't gotten to the right place yet, but it's very dispersed out, and it's different. My local shows that I would put on at House of Blues would bring 2,300 people out. Our local bands would sell out a main venue, and that wasn't a pay-to-play. That was just based on fans, and that's just one town. That's Orlando, which is much smaller than what LA is. But that's the type of demand and support there is for local music. So it's pretty, it's different.
There was some very interesting advice you gave when I took your class. Yeah. The first day, I'm going to go back to C. Michael's class.
Sure.
Is in the final project. He had brought in a woman who works for Dick Clark Productions. Mm-hmm. And when I got out of that final, she had sent me an email saying, this is a very interesting project. Come in with your group and we'll work on this to pitch it. But she's going to charge, she wanted to charge like a very minimal fee. And one of the students, day one in your class, had mentioned the same thing. And your perspective on that was very different. It's like, because he was saying, I'm a student, I can't afford this, but you had a very different take on it that I really liked. Just hoping that you could kind of talk about your perspective on all that.
You're going to have to remind me a little bit what I said. What did I say?
Basically that, how important is your project to you?
Oh, yeah. A lot of people have really great ideas. And even though she was charging a fee, you really have to make sure it's something you want to do and see to the end. Because then if you're paying people for consulting, because I do a lot of consulting, and there's so many people who come to me for advice, and I tell them exactly what to do and things they have to follow. I give outlines, I give goals, I give deadlines, and they just never do it. And they never complete it or try it. And it's just, why did you even bother? Why did you waste that money? Why did you waste that time? So if you're going to commit to this project, you need to make sure you see it all the way to the end, because she's going to she's going to make it better for you. She's going to make suggestions. That's what she does. But you have to be prepared to take that and turn around and make it better, or else it's not going to be worth your time.
Yeah.
And you have to commit to that. I mean, the only difference between any of us and a Facebook or a Google or Steve Jobs was that they saw it all the way through. People have such great and wonderful ideas, but they give up too soon, and they never make it all the way to the end. So before you commit to it, make sure it's something you want to do before you invest in that money, before you see it all the way to the end. And then why do it?
Right.
Yeah.
Another piece of advice. kind of a word of wisdom was the excuse of if you can't afford it, you're not creative enough to find an alternative solution. I was hoping you could expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Money's always a problem when you're dealing with creatives and, people are first starting out and artists and, they're like, I don't have enough money to get in the studio. I don't have enough money to shoot a music video. I don't believe in that excuse. To me, there's so many creative ways nowadays to make money, not just through Kickstarter. We live in a barter world. We live in a world where everyone's broke. Everyone's going through their hardships. So be creative with the skills that you have. Trade services out with other people that you need services with. And for you to sit there and say you don't have money, that just means you're not being creative enough with the solution and thinking outside the box or thinking in a different way of approaching it. I've had so many examples of different artists doing things and bartering different services to trade out for what they need. Right now, I'm working with one of my students who needs a logo, but he can't afford a graphic artist. And I know a graphic artist. I'm like, well, ask him if he needs some beats for his commercial he's trying to do. Ask him if he needs beats for his website, for background play music. What is it that you guys can find out what each other needs and how people can fulfill it? I've had artists who couldn't afford lawyers, but then I had one who created a whole website for a lawyer who didn't have a website and trade because he was really good at website design. There's so many different creative things you can do and negotiate. Money should not be the reason that's holding you back. It shouldn't be. It just means you need to be creative enough to find a better solution.
I'm very big on this next question, and that's the headspace that a typical student will come in with. And there was an example in class when I was taking your class, so a student was kind of telling you about his woes and pains as far as the commute. And I'm thinking, really? You're kind of complaining about this stuff? It amazes me the excuses that students come up with that I think are very minimal. And I'm wondering what you would tell students coming into the program, what their headspace should be and how they should approach, especially the bachelor's business program, the correct way to really go about being successful.
Yeah. The program that it's here, it's an accelerated program, first of all. So you're doing stuff double the speed of what a normal college person would do.
Yeah, because I'm getting my bachelor's in 3 years.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where I explained to them, I was like, this is boot camp for the entertainment industry. This is your first taste of what it's really about. When you graduate, you will have maybe 2 jobs. You will be working 60 or 70 hours a week to really get to where you're going. You're going to be overwhelmed. There's going to be traffic, whether it's now or later. But, you really have to, if this is something you want to do, understand that this is how it is in the entertainment business. And if you're taking this degree because you want to come to school and learn about it, well, then this is how it is to learn about it as a whole, as a culture, and get used to it. I have students that complain about homework or the fact they have group projects, which is a big one. This is the entertainment business. You can't do anything in the entertainment business by yourself.
Right.
You can't. In the studio, you have engineers, you have mixers, you have producers, you have artists. If you do film, you have PA, you have assistant directors, you have screenwriters, you have everybody. Gaming, you have players, you have writers, you have graphic designers and artists and animation. Like, there's nothing in the entertainment business that you do by yourself. You can't promote by yourself. You need fans. So it's like, get over it. You're going to have groups. You're going to have different dynamics. You're going to have people who flake out. You're going to have people that are not doing their work or some people who don't show up at the meeting. It's going to happen. But at the end of the day, it's what are you going to do about it? Are you going to be professional? Are you going to stand above the rest? Are you going to see it to the end? Are you going to stay that extra hour? Are you going to make sure you do your part right? At the end of the day, everyone has a reputation. You work in groups, but everybody has their own brand and their own reputation. So no matter what anyone else does, it's up to you to make sure that people see you right. People in the entertainment business, your name will enter into a room before you do, okay? That's a big one. So what are people going to say about you before you go into that room? Are you the one that's always shows up on time? Are you always the one who does your work? Are you the one who never complains? Are you the one who goes the extra mile? That's what you want people to recognize. So are you the complainer? Are you the one that's this or that? You guys know it. You choose groups. You know who not to group with because they do certain things, right? Are you going to be the one that everybody wants to be a part of because they can depend on you? So this entertainment business degree, you're in it to win it. You need to commit to that. And I tell people all the time, I was like, if you're not willing to really take it seriously, if you can't balance a job and a family, and that's what the
entertainment business is about. It's about if you're going to commit to a job and this is what it is, this is big priority of your life, then I'm like, then don't do it. Because it's not for the weak, it's not for the distracted, it's not for the guy who's going to say, I'm too busy with everything else in my life. It's not for that person. So if you're going to come here, then do it, and do it right.
Because I have this really interesting test that I do with my own peers is for who I want to work with. Mm-hmm. And you probably will know who I'm talking about when I mention this, but there is one professor in this bachelor's entertainment program that it's like everybody seems to hate.
Right, yeah.
And I tend to think of it as that's the professor all the cool kids hate. Mm-hmm. So I always ask them, what did you think of Professor so-and-so? And if they didn't like them, then I know that that's probably somebody that I should be cautious of. Mm-hmm. But if it's somebody that they thought, oh, she was great, so professional and all this stuff, like in contemporary art, day one, she came up again. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, yeah, I can kind of gauge who's got the right mindset here.
It's true. I mean, it's funny because everyone uses, the teachers are like, you never know who your boss is going to be. And it's true. Trust me, I've had plenty of bosses where I just could not stand and bumped heads with. And there were some bosses I loved and adored and looked at as a mentor. And there's so many characteristics. So many people are different. And let's just say you are a producer in a studio. There's going to be those cocky artists that think they know everything. There's going to be the artists that just are willing to try and be creative and try new things, and directors that are like, oh my God, this is my art. I can't do this way. I need this and that way. There's people like that everywhere. So for me, is if I have a challenging teacher or if I have a challenging boss or whatever, it's like, how do I work with this person and learn how to deal with this dynamic of a personality and test your way of response to that teacher or a boss so you can practice. So when you have that difficult person in the studio or that very strict director, know how to kind of handle those different types of personality. That's why I'm like, this is a boot camp. This is your testing ground. This is where you try different things to see if things work before you take it out in the real world. For entertainment business, that's why I like to bring in panels. It's great that
Yeah, because that was the second class I've had where the final was, industry professional people.
I love that because I'd rather them tell me what I'm doing wrong now instead of trying to do it out there with millions of dollars at stake, So I'd rather someone come and tear me apart and give me the right advice before I go make that mistake or get really fired or have a bad reference or whatever the case is. So I'm like, take advantage of it. Yeah, it might be a hard month. Well, it's not always going to be easy. I hope I challenge students. I hope I inspire them. I hope I push them out of their comfort zone. I hope they're like griping when they walk out of my door because I want them to be challenged. I want them to have to think. This is a very numbing time in our lives with so much mass media. I want you to think. I want you to really figure this out because once you leave here, you're on your own. You're on your own. There's nobody telling you what you have to do. There's no contacts. There's all this stuff, and what you've made and done while you're here can help you when you leave. So I'd say take advantage of it. Go for it. I mean, that's just me, though.
So what's on the horizon for Ana Reina?
The horizon. Well, I'm working with a couple artists, helping them out. I'm working on a book. I'm writing a book.
When do you think that's going to be coming out?
Hopefully in about a year.
And what's the subject?
It's artist management mixed with marketing. I've decided to combine the two. I've noticed that's a huge element with a lot of the management books. They never focus on the marketing of an artist, the branding of an artist. I'm really huge about having an artist have their own brand. And it's really important for any creative that's doing anything to have their own brand, whether you're a producer, director, an artist. If you brand yourself, you become an entity. And as an entity, you're able to do so much more with what you're trying to do. It's not just about music. Now it's different components of your platform, whether that's merchandise, whether that's movies, whether that's fashion. So I'm kind of combining my both specialties, taking the management and the marketing together and creating a book. And I'm focusing on independent artists, ones that are just kind of starting out and don't really know where to go or what to do.
Somebody you can really mold and has the right mindset for it and everything else.
Because I think that it's an independent era. You see things like Macklemore more and making it on his own. And the independent industry, their market share is growing bigger.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time in the business.
Yeah, I mean, we're capable of doing it all. And so I really want to show people how to take advantage of it while we're in that era. People don't understand that Macklemore, he became famous off a YouTube video. At the end of the day, of course, he's been an artist around for almost 10 years, independently, locally to his town. But it took a YouTube video, a very creative one, a funny one, that finally caught viral nationally and just took off. And it's a YouTube video. That's what we go watch every single day. And it's not a label. It's not a big radio machine. It wasn't a huge sponsor. It was YouTube. So how to capitalize that. And that's the kind of thing I'm focusing on right now. So. And then hopefully that book will lead to more conferences, seminars, panels. I like to visit other colleges. I think that'd be really great and stuff like that. Yeah.
So are you planning to stay around Hollywood for a bit, or are you thinking about going back to Florida? Or?
No. As much as I miss my peeps, shout out to my peeps. The great thing about where we're at is you're here. You got Capitol Records, you got Warner there, you got like CNN across the street.
The location here is amazing.
It's amazing. And so I definitely want to take advantage of that for a while. But I like it. I'm coming out here wide-eyed. I think a lot of people who've lived here are just kind of like,
take it for granted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's Capitol. Great building. Yeah, yeah. But I'm just like, oh my God, that's Capitol amazing. Right there.
I do that too.
Yeah. It's like, I still have that, and I hope I don't lose it. But yeah, I really appreciate that. So
thank you for joining us.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me. I'm very flattered.
Well, you're welcome.
Keep chasing your dreams. Keep chasing your dreams.
All right, we're going to segue now into a song from Biebs and Her Moneymakers, a song called Crazy.
Yes.
This is a group that you manage.
Yes.
And if you could kind of tell us what their summer plans are and their new album that's coming out and where we can find them on social media.
Yes, of course. Biebs and Her Moneymakers are currently on tour. They're on the Vans Warped Tour that's going around the country. And it's pretty much going to be from like June to August. They just dropped an album at the end of May. It's called The Worst Album Ever, which is kind of hilarious. And they got some great songs on there, including this one, Crazy, that has featuring Aaron Barrett from Real Big Fish. It was actually recorded here in Anaheim, Pot O' Gold Recordings, and David Irish was their producer. So yeah, they're real excited about the album. Everything on it sounds great. This is a really cool song. It talks about not being crazy, just doing your own thing and not worrying about it. So you can find them on social media and of course their website, which is biebsandhermoneymakers.com, and then of course on Facebook. And you can also find them on Twitter at Biebs Money. You can find them at that address. So here's the song, Crazy. I hope you guys like it.
I'm not crazy. You will live that life with no regrets. And I promise you that I'll never forget. You live that life with no regrets. And I promise you that I'll never forget. Oh yes, you taught me. Not negativity, and you taught me to just be me. You told me they were wrong, and I'm not crazy. 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 You will live that life with no regrets. And I promise you that I'll never forget.
listen to their silly rhymes. You gotta do what you gotta do to make sure that you push on through. We both know that you're not crazy, we're not crazy.
Featured guest.
I'm Art Holmes, back for Rally Point Radio, and I am so excited today. I'm being joined by one of our esteemed alumni here at the Los Angeles Film School, Kyle Newacheck. How are you doing, Kyle?
I'm doing very good. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. I'm so excited. Kyle is the executive producer for Comedy Central's Workaholics.
Me and my buddies created it, and we're EPs and creators. And then we have a showrunner named Kevin Etten, who we brought on board. Great dude. Solid dude.
Kyle is an alumni of the film program, correct?
Yeah.
And what year did you graduate?
2004.
So 10 years ago.
10 years ago, yeah.
Can you believe it's been 10 years?
Yeah.
There's that episode in Workaholics where you go back to 2006 when they're in college.
That's right.
That's pretty much where I am in the season. I think I'm maybe 2 episodes after that. But I love that episode because I was like, holy shit, because I'm almost 40 years old. The show, the leads are about like mid-20s.
Right.
So 2006 for me was like yesterday. But you designed the show with the music and everything.
We had a lot of fun with that, yeah. We had a lot of fun with that one just because we decided to do a period piece, but it's only 8 years ago. So not a lot changes from here to then, but actually a lot did change. Like, we tried to use all the music from then, make sure Durz's haircut was on point.
Oh my God, that was hilarious because he was
Blake's
like
hair,
the big swim guy, but then he's getting tortured by the other swim guys. And how do you make that transition to being the Durz?
Right.
Where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from the Bay Area.
So it's still California, not too far away.
Yeah, 6 hours by car, 1 hour by plane.
How do you make your way to the LA Film School?
When I was a kid, I was making movies and stuff for a while with Blake. Blake and I grew up together. He's on the show, the dude with the hair.
The big hair.
Yeah, the dude with the hair.
That guy is freaking talented, too.
He's great, man. We've known each other since 3rd grade, and we were like drawing comic books back then, and then we started making little short films, and we did a backyard wrestling show on public access up in Concord, where we're from, and we put that on public access, and we just kind of liked creating, liked what we could do with a video camera and comedy. So we kind of thought we could do it for a living, but we weren't positive. Anyways, his dad lived down in Orange County. So when we graduated high school, he was going to live with his pops and go to OCC. And I really didn't have much that I wanted to do. It was either go to school, and I didn't really want to go to a 4-year college. So I went down to OCC, followed him down there basically. And then I drank heavily and didn't finish a semester at OCC, got into some trouble. And I was 19 at the time. So I was just working at Van Shoes and getting into trouble basically. And then my mom was like, why don't you go to film school? And then I found LA Film School, came here. And then that's kind of how it all started, basically.
When you came here, were you more focused on really taking it seriously and being the honor student?
Oh, I loved it. When I first came here and toured the school, I absolutely fell in love. I walked in on the editing room, and there was only like 8 computers, and they were running Avid Media Composer from 2002 at that point. And it was just heaven. I was like, oh my God, look at all these people making stuff. This is exactly what I want to do. This is it. And then looking at the sound stage and looking at all the dollies and all the gear, my mind was open to like, what are the possibilities of this world, this film world with all this stuff? Like here it is. This is it. I only knew what a video camera was in Pinnacle Systems, which was an old ass editing software that you got for like $27 at Fry's. And that's what I was editing off of. And now here's Avid, here's these Canon Canon XL1s and then the XL1Ss and like flags and C stands and like sound gear and different types of microphones and writing. And I was just blown away. So yeah, when I came here, I was incredibly focused. I was ready to go. I still didn't really admit that I wanted to be a director. When I was here, I was the youngest kid. I was 19 years old. Everybody else was older than me. And so I felt kind of awkward in terms of like, well, I want to do this. This is my project, because I was the youngest kid, you know, and it was just like, well, by some of them, by like 20 years, I was younger than them. And so I was like, well, they want to direct. Where can I fit in? So the whole time I was here, I was editing, I was gripping, I was doing set design, I was doing everything that I could to help other people on their projects and in turn learn what those crafts were. And that was, I think, incredibly helpful for me, because I was like not just trying to make the one project. I think a lot of people come to film school and they're just trying to make that one project.
That thesis,
or even with the recording school, they're trying to make that one album or whatever they're trying to do. They have the idea for that. I really did not want to have the thought process of I have one project I want to make. I really constantly reminded myself that I want to have a career in this industry. So I need to learn everything that I can. And I edited so many shorts here, so many projects. The soundstage used to be where a lot of different sets were set up, and it used to be unlocked at night. Like you could go in. The security was super weak when I was here. This place was like open 24 hours a day. You could cut all day. I'd go to Denny's and have dinner at 2 o'clock in the morning and then come back here and edit. And the soundstage people would have sets set up. If I got tired, I would just go down the soundstage, pull a mattress out of the scene dock, and just sleep.
Because that, to me, having a facility that's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that to me would lend itself to the creative process that more people would want to be a part of the school instead of now where it's like a 9 to 5 kind of atmosphere.
Yes, I think so. When I was here, it was called the Film Immersion Program. So I immersed myself in it. I took that very literally, and it's like, okay, I'm diving in and I'm not coming up for air. But I think now you can and you have the ability, like technology has gotten so good that a 9 to 5 doesn't really matter, because laptops now kick ass.
Because I got Pro Tools now on my laptop, so I can edit this interview on my laptop now, and this facility doesn't have to be open.
Right. In 2003, 2004, that wasn't really an option. They had massive rooms of hardware here that you had to edit on and stuff like that. And the computers were giant and they were expensive. Nowadays, like technology has gotten to the point where you don't have an excuse to not. You got to do it. Even when I get a laptop, I'm like, well, let me get Final Cut on it. And then I got my camera that I carry with me everywhere. And I'm like, well, let me shoot something. And then I'm like, well, okay, let me convert this. Okay, let me bring it into Final Cut. Now let me cut this. I'm still going to do it because it's fun and kind of therapeutic for me. I love touching the project.
Because what you were saying was a lot of people focus on that one project. You seem to me more of somebody who wants to collaborate with people and will work on everything you can just so you can be part of the process.
I've always been that way. I've always had multiple projects in the works at once. I guess it's like maybe a product of being a little ADD or something. I don't know what the hell it is, but I love working on different projects. And I think even as I get further on in my career, I still have 9 projects going on at once. And they're all a little different. I think that's what I like about it. It's like you can work on this comedy, and then I'm doing like a short film with my brother, and that's like a drama, like post-apocalyptic sci-fi thing. So it's like a completely different side of the brain that I'm using to have conversations with him. And then I call up Blake and Adam and Durs, and we're working on our movie, and that is just what can make us all laugh. Like you're working this nasty kind of taboo part of the brain, and then I have music. I always do music as well, and that's like just a totally different part than either of those. It almost combines the two in a sense, because I take my music very seriously, but I still put funny lyrics on top of it, and I'm still trying to taboo it up. So it's like moving through it all.
Take me to the nucleus of Workaholics and where that all started.
Well, it started with mail order comedy. And mail order comedy is me, Blake, Adam, and Anders. And we were doing sketch comedy prior to Workaholics. We did that for like 4 or 5 years on YouTube. Then we made this web series, which was the initial idea of Workaholics, where it was like 3 guys work together and they live together. And we put that online. Nobody watched it for about 6 months. Maybe even more than that.
No views, no comments.
It was like nobody was watching it. It was It wasn't the best thing in the world. I mean, it just kind of sucked. We had kind of lost hope on that. So we were working on other stuff. I was working on an album at that point, and we were making other sketches and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, Comedy Central gives us a call and is like, hey, why don't you guys come down and pitch that Office idea that you had and or the web series? And we're like, okay, cool. So we go down to Comedy Central, who we had been there before pitching other ideas. We had been in there a couple times, and we kept trying to pitch the idea of the Wizards, which is the Wizards is a rap group that we have where we're all wizards that rap. So you're talking about like banging maidens and like like selling wizard weed and
Keeping
like
it
all
old
that.
school.
Yeah, like murdering goblins and shit. That was a fun project that we were working on at that point. So we kept pitching that, and they're like, stop pitching the Wizards. And we're like, okay, cool, we're done. And then we pitched them this idea, Workaholics, and they said, go shoot what was called at that point a pilot presentation. And a pilot presentation is 10 to 12 minutes of what the show could be or the characters in it. And that didn't really gel too well with me or the guys. We were like, well, how do we write this? What is it, like a trailer or something? I don't understand. How are we going to shoot this? And we were really good at shooting on a budget. Working here at the time, I had access to cameras and lights.
What class, or do you teach a lot of classes?
I taught editing, Final Cut and Avid. So they wanted this pilot presentation that was 12 minutes long, and we were like, no, let's just shoot a whole episode. So we wrote a whole episode and went above and beyond. And because they saw that full episode, then they were like, you guys are good. This was solid story, solid execution. We're going to order 10 episodes. And so that's kind of how it came to
started.
life. Yeah, that's it.
So you get 10 episodes. Do you find any resistance from Comedy Central as far as what you wanted to do, or did they just let you go ahead and make all 10 with all the freedom in the world?
We had a little bit of pushback. You mean like with their involvement? Is that what you mean? Yeah, like Comedy Central was really cool to us from the jump because we went to them with a visual template of the show. So we showed them what we want the show to be. It wasn't like a lot of pilots where you go with a piece of paper and say, this is what it is. Now sink some money into this. We went to them with the show. They knew what we wanted it to be. And also we had already proven ourselves. Like we delivered pretty much an episode of Workaholics. And so they were stoked on that. And we also had 4 dudes. If they come at us, we're going to say, no, we think this is funny. And they'll be like, oh, you think it's funny? Well, then okay. So we had a little bit of like the crew mentality up top, and they were always really cool. There's been some back and forths, but thank God Comedy Central has a dope president, Kent Alterman, that's a legit dude and understands comedy. I think you might have seen the episode where Adam does the mangina.
Uh-huh.
You remember that?
I think so.
It's the one where they go to hedonism.
Yes.
And he comes out and he's got his weenus tucked in between his legs.
Uh-huh.
We were like, we're going to be the first mangina on TV, right? That's what
You're going to break new ground.
Yeah, and we're always trying to break new ground when it comes to like...
pushing the envelope.
Yeah, because like, why not? I mean, why not? Like, you might as well push ground or break ground and all that stuff, be known as a pioneer in something, even if it is dick and fart jokes.
It's like Jerry Springer says, if I'm going to be the worst, I'm going to be number one.
Yeah,
being the worst.
Yeah. And it's fun too. Like people watch it and you get a little bit of shock value and people are like, oh, whoa. And it's cool. It's great. Like, why the hell not? We're not hurting anybody. But the mangina, they were like, you can't do this. Adam cannot do this. It's not going to happen. And we're like, well, why? Why not? We're not showing anything. They're like, you're showing pubes. And we're like, well, if Adam shaves, can we do it? And they're like, no answer. And so ultimately we ended up just shooting it, and we're like, well, I guess we might have to blur this out. But then we went to the president and stated our case, and he was like, yeah, just show it. But on episodes like that, we have to make them TVMA. So we have to change the rating on them.
Because what's the usual rating, 14?
They want it to be TV 14. We've wanted it to be TVMA from the beginning. They wanted it to be 14 because of demographic business sense. From a creative standpoint, we know that this show is TVMA. And we've always shot it, like when we first started shooting it, we were shooting it as if it was an HBO show, as if anything goes. And then it's like, well, if we cuss, then we'll just bleep it. But then on the DVD, it won't be bleeped, so it'll be the show that we want.
Right.
Like the legacy of the show will be what we want it to be. The initial impact will be good enough and for TV.
Do you deal with standards and practices at all? I think that's a separate entity above the network?
Yes, we do deal with standards and practices, and I think they are like Viacom standards and practices, not just Comedy Central. So they're like a more global, what's good for TV and what's not. They're basically like TV parents, what's acceptable.
Tell us some of your experiences dealing with those guys.
I mean, the Mangina thing was definitely one of them. We had an episode in season 1, and this thing is called The Strike, where we wanted to have a crowd chant "suck our dicks."
And you did.
And we did it, but we weren't supposed to. So you're not allowed to say dick if it's anatomical. You're allowed to call somebody a dick. Like I can say, you're being a dickhead.
Your name is Dick.
My middle name is Dick. Yeah, your name is Dick.
Yeah.
My grandfather's name is Dick in real life. So you could say that, no problem. You can't say suck our dick. But we had to go to them with some crazy case of like, well, no, we're telling them to suck the metaphorical dick. And the metaphorical dick is like the man, like it's not anatomical. This is a saying. And they let us do it.
Do you ever catch yourself and going, I cannot believe this is what I do for my daily life?
Oh, all the time. We were talking about a drug trip one time. We never filmed it, but we were talking about a drug trip on one of the episodes and saying that a penis appears in the mirror with Anders as he looks in the mirror. Okay, so he sees a penis. Me and Durs got into a huge battle, well, what is it, man? Is it a real dick? Is this a person dressed up like a dick? Is it a cartoon? What is it? I need to know these things. I need to know what you're thinking. I think it's better and it's funnier if it's an animated dick. And he was like, well, I think it's funnier if it's actually me dressed up in a dick costume. I'm like, so a prosthetic dick. Okay, great. And then after a little bit of that, we kind of look at each other and we're like, what the hell are we doing? Like, this is awesome. This is the dream. Yeah, we're sitting here arguing about what kind of dick it should be if we shoot this episode. Yeah.
So you do first season 10 episodes. The second season is also 10 episodes. Did you have any production snafus making the shows, or did everything go pretty smoothly and making things on time?
I mean, everything went smoothly. We do a very ambitious show on our schedule. We shoot every episode in 4 days. Like a lot of the network stuff, like Community and all those.
And which you've directed some of those episodes.
Yeah, I've directed Community.
Parks and Recreation too, I think.
I did Parks and Rec. I did Happy Endings. And I did a pilot for NBC as well. Like for the pilot, I got 8 days to shoot it. And it's the same amount of time, ultimately. For a Community, they shoot every episode in 5 days. And they do crazy hours, like 18, 20-hour days. That's just what it is over there. But it's a fun show to work on. Our show, we do it in 4 days, 12-hour days. We can't afford to go over, and I really pride myself in trying to get my homework done so that it's not going to be an issue. We're going to be able to do it. But there's definitely been some episodes of Workaholics that have really tested my patience. Like, Jesus, I can't believe we just did that. Like, it's a tough show to shoot. Like, there's one, I don't think you've seen it yet, but where we're running all around the valley. It's called Real Time. That's just gnarly.
Oh, is that the one where they're trying to get to work?
Yeah.
And that's like one episode?
Yeah.
I love that episode.
That episode was a really challenging one to shoot because we were all over. Within the concept of it, it had to read as 21 minutes
in real time.
21 minutes. Yep. Yeah. So in order to connect all the sets and connect everything and shoot it out of order, that was a massive piece of homework that I had to work on. And it's days and days and days of planning goes into these episodes. Another one that was tough was the acid trip one.
That was season 3, episode 1?
That was season 3, episode 1, yeah.
That was the one, because in season 3, you did 20 episodes. And I noticed in the first episode that, I don't know if it's because you did 20 episodes and now you have more of a budget than you did in the first 2 seasons?
No, not much.
Because the visual quality of that episode is just, it's a step above from what had come before. It would seem to me.
Yeah, I think that it was. I mean, here's the thing. Season 3, that whole season, we switched cameras.
Because the look of it just seemed like it was more like...
Oh, yeah.
It was different a little bit.
I'm an executive producer on the show, so I really kind of babysit production a lot. Like, I'm just curious as to what's going on and how can we save money? What are we doing? And because that's like the student in me that always wants to know what's new. How else can we do this? So I looked at the budget, and we were spending like almost $180,000 on camera rentals a year. That's a lot of money. That's a ton of money for the way that the show looks. I thought it looked good. It looked fine, but it wasn't like super special. And I'm like, well, what can we do here? And then we found Canon, and they were coming out with the new C300s at that point. And so me and my DP, Grant Smith, who's also a LA Film alumni, and my brother and the whole camera team, we did extensive research, went to these Canon showings and all that, and we got them before they were on the market and started shooting, and it gives it the look that it has right now. It's solid, like more filmic look. It really did change between season 2 and season 3. And also, we got really good at doing it.
Because by most shows, by season 3, they've gotten into a groove.
Yeah.
Season 3, 4, and 5 are usually the seasons where the shows are at their peak creatively.
Right. I think season 3 is my favorite season. The whole thing, all 20 episodes. That was a hard thing to do because we did 20 episodes.
Yeah, were you pretty burnt after that one?
It was crazy. It took an entire year to do that.
Wow.
It took an entire year. From January to January, we were working on Workaholics. I think we had a week off in between, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was gnarly. But that season was great. I really like it. There's something behind it. This season that's airing right now, I really like.
Favorite episodes?
Favorite episodes of all time?
Maybe your top 3.
There's different kinds of episodes. Every episode has a special place in my heart just because I feel like I give a little something to it. I love the acid trip. I thought that was a great accomplishment. That one was fun to do because you got to play with reality. You got to play with it. And the Jell-O desk that's my claim to fame. That was like a moment where I was sitting with my first AD and we were like, the desk was going to... It was just going to glow or something like that. And I was like, that's easy. What are we going to do? What else can we do with this desk? We don't do this type of episode all the time. How can we make this special? And I was like, oh, what about water? Like making the water super clear, like still. And so it looks like a desk, and then just smacking the shit out of it. And all of a sudden, what you thought was solid is now water. And then I was like, oh, Jell-O. Jell-O's perfect. It's right there. And we made it. They made so much Jell-O for that scene. It was unreal. Yeah.
We've had some interesting cameos on the show. One of my favorites is at the very beginning of season 1 with Clint, and is it Rance or Lance Howard?
Rance.
Because that's father and son.
Right. They're cool.
Because I've never seen that happen because I'm a big Clint Howard fan.
He's like the Waldo of Ron Howard movies.
I know. And then sometimes you'll see the father on certain TV stuff like Seinfeld or Ed Wood. So he pops up in interesting places.
He was in The Dilemma, too. Ronnie put him in that movie. I say Ronnie Howard because he's my buddy. Just kidding. I wish.
Jeff Fahey's been on.
Oh, Fahey was the best.
Really good.
Fahey was the
to
best.
Work with.
Yep, 100%. Super great guy. Has the most amazing stories from his life in Hollywood and all this. He lives in Iraq.
Really?
Yeah, he just goes back and forth. And he was an amazing actor, too. Like, when he had to act with that raccoon, because we killed the raccoon.
I was like, I can't believe they did that.
Yeah, totally.
It's like the one thing you don't do is don't kill the animals.
You have to have animal wranglers on set. And so we got a raccoon.
There's all these regulations. And
yeah, so much regulation. So working with animals is always an interesting day on set. But that day was particularly interesting because in the script, we're supposed to kick a raccoon in the side of a wall and maim it. We didn't actually kill it in the episode. It's alive at the end. But we maimed it and made it feel like it was dead. And we had to get this raccoon to do a few things. Go from point A to point B, all this stuff. And the animal wranglers couldn't get the raccoon to do it. And we had the whole crew standing and we're like, oh man, come on, let's hurry up. We have to shoot this now. Can we get the raccoon to go from here to here? Huh? You think so? And they're like, everybody's freaking out the raccoon. And I'm like, okay, fine. Everybody go inside. So I told everybody to roll inside, like the whole crew, get out of here. Like, we'll just hang out and we'll keep it real small. So that took 20 minutes to get everybody inside. Then I had my camera guys there and I was standing there and we were trying to get this raccoon to do it. Raccoon still wouldn't do it. She's like, it's because you guys are here. And we're like, well, we're the camera. We have to shoot this. So I was like, okay, all right. I will take my cameras back. We'll put on a longer lens and we'll do it like that. And I'll hide my cameras. So we put cameras underneath like pallets and stuff like that, like to hide them so the raccoons couldn't see anybody except for the freaking trainers. And then the raccoon ladies were like, we need to take a break. And I'm like, yo, it's been 45 minutes, probably an hour right now, and I need to get this shot of the raccoon. And they're like, we're going to take a break. We're going to go back to the van for a second. And I was like, Jesus Christ. So we go back to the van, and she goes back, and I'm like, like, hey, is there anything I can do? What's up? And she's like, you are ruining raccoons. What you are shooting right now is ruining raccoons. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, didn't you read the script? Well, this has been in the script since we asked you to do the job. She's like, I will not be a part of a raccoon being kicked into the wall. And I'm like, well, lady, I'd never been so mad, man. I was just like, come on. So we ended up having to like use a stuffed raccoon, okay, for a lot of it. I ended up using what we got of the raccoon trying to do it. And then we had a stuffed raccoon that I was like, screw it, we're going to use that. And now Fahey had to act with a stuffed raccoon. And I was like, this is going to be so bad. This is going to be really cheesy. And I can't believe we're doing this. But when he picked that raccoon up and started almost crying because his pet raccoon had died and was hurt and he needs the car, it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. I'm like, I believe that raccoon is alive. I mean, I believe it's a real raccoon. You're doing an amazing job, Jeff. It was crazy. I was like, yeah, dude, this is cool. He's great.
I did a podcast with Kevin Smith last year. He came here and did a Film School Friday thing. And one of the questions asked was, what's the hardest scene that you had to film in Clerks? And it was a cat shitting in the box. He said that was the hardest thing he's ever had to do, was to get that shot.
The monkey on Community was the best animal I've ever worked with, I think. That monkey is smart. And it was in animal practice and stuff like that. This monkey is great.
Did you ever go see the animal show at Universal Studios?
Yeah, I saw it recently.
It's so fun.
It's cool. They just send birds out over your head.
Yeah, how the hell did they pull that off? It's like amazing. I didn't know animals could be that trainable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was very eye-opening to me to see that. You play Carl Newacheck on the show.
That's correct.
And being in front of the camera, now you're renewed for season 5?
Yeah.
20 more episodes?
No, we'll probably just do 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now you're getting a lot of exposure because you got like 2 million likes on your Facebook and very popular show now. And so I'm wondering, do you tend to get noticed a lot because of the character that you play on the show in real life?
It's becoming more and more, but it hasn't been a thing, really. I mean, even with the free Carl shirts out there, like people wear shirts with my face on it. But the cool thing is like as a character, I don't wear glasses and I don't wear a hat. And then in my everyday life, I'm always wearing glasses and I'm pretty much always wearing a hat. So I'm almost in a little bit of a disguise, which is great. It's absolutely phenomenal because then I'll be out with the guys and they'll be like, oh, Blake, Adam, what's up, dude? Let's do shots. And then they'll be like, let me get a picture. And they'll be taking a picture and they'll be like, hey, dude, can you take it? And I'll take the photo. And then like as I'm taking the photo, they're like, oh, Carl, what the hell? It's the best. It always makes me smile because I'm like incognito, like, all right.
Joe Byron, I was talking to him that you were going to be on and some of the questions I was going to ask you. And one of them was, how similar are you to Carl? And Joe was like, yeah, ask him that question because the two couldn't be more different. Is that pretty much true?
Yeah, it's very true. I don't think I'm like Carl at all. Carl is a persona. Carl is the dumbest version of me. Let's just say like that.
Joe Byron was like, that would probably be Kyle if he hadn't have went to film school.
Joe and I have often talked about that if I didn't have any kind of a direction in my life and I didn't have any kind of a passion, I would absolutely be living in a van, selling drugs, probably trying to surf and hang with some friends or whatever, like really keep a low overhead because I'm not making any money. But then I found the LA Film School and I got my passion. So,
and your purpose.
Yeah, and my purpose
which is very important.
Right.
Find.
So it's always fun to play that character just because it's like he doesn't really have a care in the world. The only thing he cares about really is his friendship. But that's funny because the dudes don't really think of him as a great friend. So it's awesome.
Was he the one that was going to like go back to school and then the guys were like, we got to save him from making the worst mistake of his life? Am I thinking of the right thing there?
Yeah, there's been a couple of those. One of them, I was going to go back to college. And they're like, no, you can't go back to college. You got free pizza for life or whatever. I was like going to quit the drug business. They were all sad about that. And then I was going to get married in an episode. And they were like, we can't let him get married or he's going to get married. Carl is a very interesting character because really it's like, well, what kind of a story do we want to tell? We want to tell a wedding story? Okay, which one of our characters are going to get married? No, we can't make any of our characters get married. Well, let's put Carl in it. Carl can do anything we want him to do. So in that sense, Carl's like super fun to play because I never know what Carl is going to be into. We had an episode this season where I had to want to cut my dick off.
Oh, I got to get there.
Yeah, you got to get there. That's a really weird one. But it's fun. Carl's always super fun to play.
Because the show isn't really serialized. You can kind of come into it without having seen previous episodes like a Breaking Bad.
Right.
Is there any talk about kind of going in that direction with this next season?
We've discussed it, but I don't think we're going to do that.
You just don't think that's what the show is?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the show would actually take a hit like that. I think that we would get too wrapped up in like what the big story is and forget a little bit about the comedy.
Because Seinfeld was like that too in the beginning, and then around season 5 they did that whole making of Seinfeld, what they went through.
Right. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, we've talked about it. I think some people, including myself, really want to try to write a show like that, especially after watching Breaking Bad and True Detective and The Shield back in the day, and like how you're just anticipating the next episode. It's like, yeah, that would be fun to try and write. But I don't know that Workaholics is the one to do that with. Because it's kind of cool. Like, we developed things with the characters in season 4, and then you can watch that one first and then go back and watch stuff from season 1, and it all still works. You can watch it in any order, and it might even, what you learn in season 4 might make the season 1 episode like even funnier.
More meaningful. Because when I got done with the college way back episode, it made the other episodes have more meaning to me.
Right, because you know how these guys met, you know like where it all came from, and so it's, I really like what we did with that episode is just straight up.
Because if you ever watched The Big Bang Theory, they did that too with the elevator that had always been broken since the beginning of episode 1, and then it's like around season 4 they finally went back and explained how those two guys became roommates and how that elevator got destroyed and everything else.
I think that stuff's really cool. It's like instead of writing a story, you're like building a world with these characters in it, and I like the world thing, and then you just tell these little points of time within this world. It's cool.
So season 5, are you in production with that now, or are you starting production coming up soon?
We're gonna start soon. We're gonna start, what's here, May, June.
And when does you expect the first episode of that to air?
I think it'll be about the same time it did this year, probably in January.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll probably do it in January.
But 13 of them this time.
13, yeah. We just did 13. It's been weird every single time. We did 10, then 10, then 20, then 13, and now we're going to do 13.
And you think that's pretty good without doing enough but not then getting burnt out?
Yeah, I think that's solid. And we all are like, we need some time. We all got families now. We need some time to spend with our families and go mess around with some other projects and like get new information, then bring it to the Workaholics table and write.
And how do you balance a family with the workload that's Workaholics?
Well, I'm just getting married, you know.
That's right, you just got engaged.
Yeah, I got engaged, so I'm getting married in a year. But like Blake just had a kid, Durs had a kid, you know, so it's like we're all growing up and it's cool. We're all growing up together. It's awesome.
I wanted to ask for the storylines, any of that based on real life?
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Some of it is based on real life, but then we really embellish it.
Ramp it up.
Yeah, embellish it, because none of it is dead on real life. There's no way. Like the way that people often ask us, how close are you to your character? And I think the smartest answer that Adam has started championing is if we were very close to our characters, if we were our characters, we would all be dead. I mean, they're party gods in a sense.
And it's fun to do that once in a while, but you got to take that stuff in moderation.
Yeah, 100%, man. You got to. You still got a life to live and all that. These characters, they don't have a life to live. All they do is party. And that comes from a real place. That's what we were doing when we made the show. It came out of a party house in Van Nuys that we all lived at. So it was like a real thing that we were doing. And we were 22, 23, 24, and we were partying. But at the same time, we were working, making stuff.
Yeah, you were being productive.
We were being incredibly productive. The only reason we could party a lot is because we were doing our passions. We were making sketches. We were putting it online. We were running like this little factory of comedy. But that comes along with the 24-year-old territory. You're going to be chugging Keystone Light.
Because when you're in Hollywood and you're starting to see a level of success, did you have any problems with people kind of succumbing to the success of the show at all, or did people pretty much stay on point with it?
It's relative, I guess.
Because I know if you ever watch Entourage, they had that one season where he takes that tumble a little bit with the excess and the success and all that.
I think that was right around the time I stopped watching. I got to check that out.
I always thought this show should have ended like the season before that.
Right.
The one before Sasha Grey.
Yeah, totally. That's when I stopped. That's where it ends in my mind. Yeah.
They get on the plane and that was about it.
It was done. That show was happy to me.
I loved how they spent like the first 3 seasons working on Medellin.
Right, Medellin, that's right. Yeah.
And then they go to Cannes and it's the worst showing in the history of the festival.
That was tight, yeah.
It's like,
remember
that's
the
pretty
director?
much the business right there.
You remember the director? I think his name's Billy in the show.
Yes.
And he got the tattoo of fucking Pablo Escobar on his back. He had a
Pablo
huge one.
fucking Escobar, are you kidding me?
That show was really cool. I thought they were working on a movie. I don't know what happened to it.
Yeah, I heard that.
A lot of people don't like that movie. Me and Divine used to watch that show every Sunday, and we'd be like, okay, so you're Vinny Chase. I'll be like E. We were pumped on it. That show fueled our drive, in a sense, to keep doing what we got to do. Like, we got to be like Entourage. That's how dumb we are.
So now that you're working in Hollywood on a successful show, how similar to Entourage and Hollywood do you think the two are?
It can be pretty close, looking in the right light. Sure. Like, we can go to parties and all that stuff, and like, there's famous people. I saw the Coen brothers.
Do you get starstruck?
I don't think I get starstruck. I get hero struck.
Yeah, because this school really acclimates you to being around known people, especially with all the Q&As we do.
Sure.
I've been here almost 3 years, and it's like, okay, I'm used to it. And then I did an internship last year where they did a Halloween special show. Jack Black was there, and he was at a Ouija board thing, and I was like 5 feet away, and it's like, wow, this is a far cry from 10 years ago when I'm in a mobile home in Illinois watching him in School of Rock.
Yeah, there you go, man. That's a good
Or
climb.
being in the Kevin Smith thing, too.
Hell yeah.
Because in 95, when Clerks came out, and watching that, and just out of high school, and now I'm sitting down with him having a one-on-one.
Yeah, totally. There is those moments where you got to pinch yourself. My fiance gets very excited around famous people. She's like, where do I know them from?
She's not in the business at all?
Not at all. So she's excited. And I've been with her for 3 years now, and I've kind of been like, okay, you need to calm down when we go into this room because you're going to be seeing some people, okay? But yeah, it's always fun. That's a...
So are you big on going to the awards now? Because I'm sure you get invited to like the MTV Movie Awards and all that stuff.
Sometimes. I had a video nominated for Best Hip Hop Video a couple years ago in the MTV Music Awards, and I wasn't even invited. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was tight.
So I'm going to end this interview because you are a music person.
Yeah.
But I would like to invite you back so we can talk to Sully about your music stuff.
Sure, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to add that we didn't cover?
No, not at all.
Awesome. This is Art Holmes with
Kyle Newacheck.
And we are out. All right, that is going to do it for episode number 3. Join us next time where our featured guest will be Michael Lynn. Michael is a former producer for E! Entertainment's True Hollywood Story. So until next time, this is Art Holmes for Rally Point Radio. I am out.
This has been a production of the Los Angeles Film School's chapter of Student Veterans of America. We would like to thank GIs of Comedy, Shure Microphones, and Broadcast Supply Worldwide. For more information on the show and other episodes, visit lafilm.edu/military.
The views and opinions expressed on Rally Point Radio are those of the on-air personalities and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Los Angeles Film School or its subsidiaries.